No Rest for the Wicked comes out in just 6 days, and despite the absolute killer studio behind this title and the honestly impressive game overview, there seems to be little excitement or hype about what could be one of the best action RPGs we have seen in actual recent years. Let me give you 5 non-clickbait reasons why you should get excited for this title. Yes, you will spend the absolute majority of your time annihilating enemies and bosses in the coolest, most rewarding and satisfying ways. But there is something more relaxing and personal to do here as well. I'm talking about the town called Sacrament. This is one of the highlights for me personally. We can think of Sacrament as the heart of our journey. This town is more than just a spot to catch your breath or something between quests. It's actually a living part of the game world that literally grows and changes right along with you. Basically, your goal is to rebuild and invest in Sacrament and help out the people here. By doing this, you unlock and upgrade various useful NPCs, shops, crafting stations and so on. The developers mentioned they want to make investing resources in Sacrament as rewarding as investing resources into your character. So it's not just a half-assed, implemented feature here. There's also an option to buy real estate and customize your own home. When you gather resources in the world, you can craft furniture, and you can get really creative here as well. There is no grid system, and there seems to be a lot of variety and possibilities when it comes to customizing a place. And it isn't just for looks either. There are many objects that have a function and gameplay purpose. It's a cool aspect of the game when you're not out there fighting monsters. And I imagine it will just be cool to see your place get better and more fleshed out as you progress and find more stuff in the game. There is actual meaningful exploration in this game. It's definitely a breath of fresh air that the game world here is not procedurally generated, and therefore meaningful and rewarding exploration is something we can totally expect here. A good amount of time was spent in the overview to make it crystal clear to us that we will love exploring this handcrafted world that is full with hidden items, chests, locations, caves, shortcuts, and unexpected enemy placements. There is something that stood out here as well, which is that the world is very interactive. For example, if something looks like you can climb on it, then in 99% of cases, you certainly can. It's not like procedural generation doesn't have its advantages too, but the disadvantages outweigh them, in my opinion. Repetitiveness, lack of polish, and less narrative depth, just to name a few. Every inch of the world in No Rest for the Wicked is crafted by a designer, and it's obvious this is the truth and not just some marketing saying. The both hard and animation-driven combat actually functions very similar to the Souls games. The learning curve rewards patience and skill, rather than mindless button mashing or luck. Now, this whole combat system is supported by the fact that the developers implemented WASD controls instead of the usual point-and-click system, so every movement and action you make will be much more natural and give you better control over your character. If you're totally not into the Souls-like genre, perhaps you shouldn't pass on the game immediately, because from what we have heard and seen, it's not quite as hard as many of the Souls games. So yeah, combat definitely something that will be one of the game's strong suits, especially when you think about all the other things the devs have thought through. Like every weapon has different movesets, how different armor types affect how you move and fight, and also the soft class system, so you're not stuck in one role the entire game. Replayability is a massive draw for the game. The game is designed so that no two playthroughs are the same. This is due to a few design choices they made. Firstly, since the game world isn't static, areas will change when you come back, and new or tougher enemies might be present at places you wouldn't expect. So even if you have been to an area before and fully explored it, when you return you might be surprised in what's waiting for you. The developers simply refer to the system as alive, but it's also the soft class system that's adding very good replayability. You could play as a mage in a first playthrough and a heavy hitting armored tank or warrior in your second, and this will give you an entirely different experience and challenges. Finally, it's gotta be the art style. You almost feel like you're not just gaming, but wandering through an art gallery where every scene could be framed. The game's going for that watercolor come to life vibe, and I'm sure quite a few players might stop fighting just to admire a particularly cool background. It's the kind of attention to detail that can turn a good game into a great one. And it also shows that the developers care. Now let us know what you think. Feel free to leave comments with your opinions. And remember to give this video a thumbs up if it was useful.